Hey, what's up, ninth grade? In this screencast, we're going to talk about U.S.-Soviet foreign relations. This is a very brief history, but hopefully one that will help you understand our next conceptual topic of study, which is the Cold War. Relations between the United States of America and the Soviet Union have been hostile and tumultuous throughout the course of world history. The Cold War was a superpower struggle between these two nations that defined international relations in the post-World War II era. So today we really want to talk about the relations, sort of the history between these two nations and sort of how we end up with this next era of U.S. foreign policy that becomes known as the early Cold War. We have to go back to the U.S. and the Russian Empire and some of the relations that they had. Primarily, this has to do between the years of 1776 and 1917. This is when the United States of America declared their independence from Britain, and then in 1917, which was the end of the Imperial Russian monarch that you see pictured there. In 1780, we appointed a representative to Russia. This eventually became our ambassador. In 1832, there was a Russian-American commercial treaty which allowed for trade between the two nations. In 1857, we actually constructed a number of Russian naval vessels, and this really culminated in this early part of U.S.-Russian Empire relations in 1867 with the U.S. purchase of Alaska. A very important moment for the United States of America, but also in this U.S.-Russian relations. Between 1891 and 1893, we sent aid to Russia during their famine. In 1905, there was a peace conference to bring about the end of the Russo-Japanese War. It was held in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Then President Theodore Roosevelt negotiated that peace. And then in 1914, we witnessed the outbreak of World War I. By 1917, Russia was out of the war. This was amidst a revolution at home, which was known as the Bolshevik Revolution. But in World War I, we were allies with the then Imperial Russian regime. That does change in 1917. With the removal of the Imperial Russian government, it really ushered in a new moment in U.S.-Russian Empire relations, because this is when the communists came to power. Between 1917 and 1991 is sort of the second phase of U.S.-Soviet relations, not just calling it Russia now because it becomes the Soviet Union. Between 1917 and 1933, the United States of America did not even recognize the Bolshevik government. We would not even have diplomatic relations with them. We viewed communism as something that was, at odds with our larger principles, our democratic ideals, and because of that, we would not even deal with them. In November of 1933, President Roosevelt reestablishes formal diplomatic relations between the nations. This went a long way towards eventually being allies in World War II, and largely that was because of FDR. Between 1934 and 1938, Stalin's purges, and Americans diplomats expressed the horror, but they did keep their diplomatic ties. It was clear that there was some crazy stuff that was going on in the Soviet Union that maybe America would not be okay with, but there again, that's Stalin for you. As we get to the onset of the Second World War, in 1939, there's that non-aggression pact between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, particularly with Adolf Hitler. That's what paves the way for the invasion of Poland on September the 1st of 1939. On June 22nd, 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Once you saw that non-aggression pact was violated, when Hitler and the German army went forward with Operation Barbarossa, this is what allowed the United States of America and the Soviet Union to become closer to one another, largely through the guise of Lend-Lease aid. And really, when Germany declares war on the United States of America, following the attack at Pearl Harbor, that's really where we start to see a wartime alliance between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. When all is said and done, the Soviet Union receives the second highest amount of Lend-Lease aid from the United States of America. And this was largely because there was a mutual enemy. Between 1941 and 1945, we see the emergence of a U.S. and Soviet alliance. This becomes, of course, known as the Allied powers in World War II, which we've just talked about extensively. In 1943, at Tehran in Iran, Roosevelt, Wilson, and Stalin meet to discuss and plan for a post-war world. And then in 1945 at Yalta, Roosevelt, Wilson, Stalin, they meet in Crimea to discuss the post-war division. So there really was a planning of the big three here. But then, of course, the war ends. FDR is no longer with us. And between 1945 and 1991, the third phase of U.S.-Soviet diplomatic relations embarks. And it really starts in Potsdam. Potsdam, that meeting in Germany in July of 45. You now have Truman a very different leader than Roosevelt. You have Stalin, you have Churchill, and very early on it became clear that this controversial question of what the world would look like after World War II was going to be different than what FDR had envisioned. Stalin had a deep distrust of Truman. Stalin also had an incredibly deep distrust of our nuclear capabilities. By 1946, it became apparent that the former Allies were once again becoming enemies, and this is where the early Cold War begins to solidify. This would dominate international relations for the next 45 years. It was an ideological struggle. It was communism versus democracy. It was capitalism versus communism. Never would the United States of America and the Soviet Union ever engage in a direct armed conflict. But so many wars were fought in the name of communism versus democracy. Whether it's in Vietnam, whether it's in Korea, whether it is in the jungles of Bolivia. I mean, you have this construct that comes to define international relations, and relations between America and the Soviet Union, they grew cold between the years of 1946 and 1941. The world will be divided. It will be into the auspices of democracy versus communism. And the areas in green are those that are going to be directly influenced by the United States of America and gravitate more towards democracy. In the areas in orange are those that are going to become part of the Soviet sphere of influence. And certainly this is something that we will be talking about from now till we get to the Reagan administration. So in conclusion, the ideological differences, the mutual distrust, America's fear of the spread of communism, and of course the onset of the nuclear arms race were the major contributing factors behind the Cold War. And in many ways, it was like a prize fight between Rocky, the United States of America, and Drago, the Soviet Union. Who would prevail?